Hi and welcome to a Kirby Maths video about multiplying decimals. I'm going to show you two different ways of multiplying decimals. The first one I am going to do with this question, and first of all I have to identify how many decimal places there are in each number, and I usually do that by drawing an arrow under each decimal place and so in the question, in total, there are 3 decimal places. So that means I need to do 3 hops of my decimal point at the end of my calculation, because I'm going to turn this into 15 times 2. I'm going to get rid of the decimals, so 15 times 2, which I know is 30. I might have to do a bit more of a multiplication if they were different numbers, but 15 times 2 is 30. So I'm starting off with 30. And I need to do 3 hops to put the decimal point back in the correct place. At the moment it lies there on the 30. So if I do 1 hop, 2 hops and then another hop, that is where the decimal point ends up. I have to fill in this gap to keep it safe with a 0 to hold its place value, and then we usually write a 0 at the front of a 0 point something. So overall, the answer to this calculation would be 0.030, and if you did it on your calculator, 0.15 times 0.2, it might come up as 0.03. Your calculator sometimes gets rid of that extra 0 if it doesn't need it. Both of these answers would be perfectly acceptable in a test. Let's try doing it with the same method with this calculation. So this time I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers to the right of the decimal point in the whole of the calculation. So that means I'm going to have to do 4 hops when I put my decimal point back in the correct place. Then I'm just going to take that out and do 51 times 17. And you could use any method you like, the grid method or a column method. I'm going to do a column method, so 51 times 17, so 0, and that's a 5 and a 1. 1 7 is 7, and 5 7s are 35, so 3 5 7, so that's 7, 6 and 8. So the answer to this calculation, 51 times 17, is 867. But I now need to put 4 hops back into that number. So 8, 6, 7, the decimal point starts there, and I need to hop them back to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it ends up there. I need to fill in there and put that there. So the final answer to this one is 0.0867. Okay, so this method involves first of all identifying how many decimal places to the right you have in the whole calculation, then completely forgetting you've got decimals and just using the numbers to do a multiplication, and then putting the correct number of decimal places back into the calculation, and I do that by hopping over the numbers and filling in with any zeros. The next method I'm going to show you is a grid method, and you don't need to take any decimals out or do any hops or do any separate calculations. It just falls out nicely with a grid. So I'm going to draw a grid where I've got 0.15 and down here 0.2. So I've put my numbers, 0.15, there are 3 digits here along the top, and 0.2 down the side. I then draw a diagonal in each box and continue it outside the final box. And then I'm going to fill in the boxes by multiplying. So 5 times 0 is 0, so I put zeros top and bottom. 5 times 2 is 10, so I put a 1 up here in the tens and a 0 down here in the units for 10. 1 times 0 is 0, again 0, 0, and 1 times 2 is 2, so that's a 0 and a 2 because it's no tens and 2 units. 0 times 0 is 0, and 0 times 2 is also 0. There's lots of zeros in this calculation, it's a bit boring. Right, so then I need to add up the sum along the diagonals. So in this diagonal channel, it's 0. In this diagonal channel, 0 plus 1 plus 2 is 3. In this diagonal channel, 0. In this diagonal channel, 0. And in this diagonal channel, 0. Then I go back to where my decimal points are, and I come down and across from this one, and where they intersect, I cut here. I travel out on that line, and my decimal point goes there. Then I write my number out, and I've got 0, 0, which doesn't really matter, 0.030. And then if I tidied that up, I could write it as 0.03, getting rid of all those unnecessary zeros. Can you see it's the same answer as the one above, but I haven't had to do any hopping around, I've just had to fill in my grid and it comes out quite nicely. Let's try it with this one then and see if it works. It will do. So this is 3 digits by 3 digits, so a little tiny bit of a different grid, 0.51 and 0.17. Not sure I've given myself enough room here, but we'll see. Let's have a look. So a 5 and a 1. Oh no, it's a bit tiny, never mind. Even though I haven't given myself enough room and drawn the boxes properly, I can still see what I'm doing. So, right, 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1, so 0 and a 1, and 1 times 7 is 7, 0 and a 7. Down this column now, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. And 5 sevens are 35, so a 3 above there and a 5 down there. Then 0 times everything here is just going to be all zeros. Then I am adding up along my diagonals, okay? So this diagonal just has a 7 in it. 1 and 0 and 5 is 6. 0 plus 0 plus 5 plus 3 plus 0 is 8. Zeros along here and zeros along here and a 0 there. Then I use my thicker liner for lining up my decimal points, and it intersects, oh I went too far, it intersects with the decimal point there, and my decimal point is actually, so that's the point of intersection, that's where it's going to end up. So I've got 0, 0, decimal point 0, 8, 6, 7, and if I get rid of my unnecessary decimal 0 at the front, then 0.0867, which is the same as the answer we got up there. Okay, thanks for watching.